So now I'm going to begin with video number 4 of Istanbul for first-time visitors. Should have been video number 3, but I had to make an addendum to my second video because I neglected to include some information in the second video. So before I start, just some additional points which I also neglected to mention in some of the earlier videos. Even though Istanbul has a very efficient public transportation service, unfortunately, it does not have a very efficient app to cover the entire public transportation system. I don't know if these apps are official or not. One of them does look official for the Istanbul Metro. It's not very good. It doesn't work very well. You're better off using Google Maps. Actually, they've added the network for the Marmaray, the Istanbul trams, and the Istanbul Metro in Google Maps. So I would use that instead of an actual app, or trying to find an app for Istanbul Metro and tram system. They do have a very good app for the ferries, though, which gives a schedule of all of the ferries which run in Istanbul. The name of the app is called the Shehir Hatları, spelled Sehirhatları. They're two words. Shehir and Hatları are two separate words. It's available in the App Store. I'm not familiar if it's available in the Google equivalent or not. That is a very good resource to use for the schedule of the ferries. Now, the way I'm tailoring this with regards to the sites to see in Istanbul is based off of a hypothetical 6 to 7 day visit to the city, since you would essentially need 6 or 7 days to see the entire city. Obviously, you can tailor the sites you want to see depending on how long your stay is: 3 days, 4 days, 6 days. But I've essentially tailored this for a 6 to 7 day visit. But like I said, you can tailor it any way you want with regards to what you want to see, what you actually want to see. So I'm going to start this off with the main attractions of Sultanahmet, which is the historical old city of Istanbul. This will essentially be broken up into two videos for 2 separate days, actually, because it takes 2 whole days if you want to really see all of Sultanahmet. So for the first day, the main attractions which you're going to see in Sultanahmet are the Blue Mosque, the Ayasofya, Topkapı Palace, the Istanbul Archaeological Museums, and the Basilica Cistern. These are the main sites you'll see during the first day. The good thing about Sultanahmet, it's a relatively compact area. So to get around is very easy, mostly by walking. If you want to, you can walk all the way down to Minoynu, or you can walk all the way to the Grand Bazaar. If you don't want to, you can take the tram also. It's not too difficult. The one thing to know is that Istanbul is a very hilly city, so prepare for a lot of incline and declining walks on the streets, and it's also cobblestoned as well. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So to start off with, your first stop to see in Sultanahmet will obviously be the Blue Mosque. Let me actually back up a little bit. In Turkey, to visit, it is free to visit any masjid or mosque in the city, or in the country rather. There's no entrance fee because it is still being used. for there is fees for all museums in Turkey. Uh, they do have a kind of daily museum visitors pass, which you can purchase at any museums. All museums in Turkey are run by the Ministry of Tourism and Culture. So at any of the museums, you can buy this pass. It's like it can be a 3-day pass, 4-day pass, 5-day pass. It's much more efficient buying the pass than actually going to each museum and buying tickets over and over again. So I would recommend that you buy the pass. It's available at any museum run by the Ministry of Tourism and Culture. The other thing to keep in mind is that not all of the sites might be open that day. So please check ahead of time. Sometimes Ayasofya is not open on certain days, for example, or tombs of the sultans are not open on I believe it's either Monday or Tuesday. I believe it's Monday where the tombs are not open. Yes, I believe it is Monday actually when the tombs are not open. But then there's another tomb which I'll describe later, which actually is not open on Tuesday, for example. Very odd, but it is true. So you will see that's something to keep in mind. So the first stop on this first day of a tour will be the Blue Mosque. Obviously, the Blue Mosque is world famous. It is a functioning masjid and mosque. So obviously, for any non-Muslim tourists during prayer time or namaz time, the masjid and mosque will be closed to tourists to allow prayers to occur. After prayer time, you can visit the mosque or the masjid. The thing is that a thing to keep in mind is that non-Muslims are not allowed in the prayer area. So there is kind of like a partition, kind of wooden divider, which you cannot go past because it is you'll have people doing prayers there or namaz there. For those of you who are Muslim, obviously you are allowed to enter that area where namaz or prayers are being held. So that's not a problem for you. The problem with the Blue Mosque for the past couple of years, it's been under renovation. So you will not be able to see the incredible architecture and designs of the domes on the upper part of the Blue Mosque. It's unfortunately it's obscured by scaffolding. Currently, at least the last 2 years I've gone, in 2018, 2019, I'm not exactly sure when the renovations will be complete, but that's actually one disappointing thing if you decide to go fairly soon. Obviously, once the renovation is complete, the design there is absolutely spectacular. It's unbelievable. The design, the architecture, and the interior of the Blue Mosque. So unfortunately, you'll have to take that into consideration. Now, when you're leaving the mosque, they will ask for a donation for the mosque. If you want to give a donation, it's not obligatory to give a donation, but if you want to give a donation, you can. One side part close to the Blue Mosque, which is worth visiting, is a tomb of two Ottoman sultans, Sultan Ahmet and Sultan Murad IV, along with a number of their wives and children as well. It's a very fascinating place. My son loved visiting it there multiple times. We went in 2018. He found it very fascinating. It's a very fascinating place. Obviously, because it is a tomb. It's a very solemn area. For my Pakistani viewers, Muslim viewers, obviously you can go and recite Fatiha for the souls there buried there. One thing to keep in mind, for any tomb in any masjid slash mosque, make sure you have a shawl with you. Obviously, you're gonna have to cover your hair once you enter the masjid and mosque. So do keep that in mind. The next stop after the Blue Mosque is probably the most amazing building I have seen in my life, which is the Ayasofya. The Ayasofya, a little bit historical background to it. It was originally built as a Eastern Orthodox Christian basilica during the Byzantine Empire, which after the conquering of Istanbul by Sultan Mehmed II, was then subsequently converted into a masjid and a mosque. And then after the formation of the Turkish Republic in 1923, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk converted it into a museum, which remains to this day. So when you enter the Ayasofya, the iconography is absolutely spectacular because you have Muslim iconography along with Eastern Orthodox Christian iconography there. It is absolutely a spectacular building. You can easily spend an hour there wandering around and roaming inside of it in the various parts of the Ayasofya. It's no visit to Istanbul is complete without a visit to the Ayasofya. Now, the Ayasofya is considered a museum, as I mentioned earlier. Also, all museums will require an entrance fees, but if you've purchased the museum pass, that will be valid for the Ayasofya. The next stop after the Ayasofya will be Topkapı Palace. So Topkapı Palace was the residence of the sultans for the Ottoman Empire once they conquered Istanbul up until about the late 1850s, 1860s, when they moved to Dolmabahce Palace, which I'll discuss in a later video. The palace, once again, is considered a museum, so there will be an entrance fee unless you purchase the museum pass ticket. Excuse me. Now there are two fees. One will be the entrance fee to enter the actual Topkapı Palace. You can buy one of those guided voice guides, which you can put in your ear and listen for the translation if you want to, or just roam around and do a self-guided tour. If you want to visit the harem section, which is I highly recommend, that will incur another entrance fee for that. But visiting the harem section is very recommended. Also part of the Topkapı Palace is the treasury room, which contains many Ottoman Empire treasures and many religious relics from the Holy Prophet, members of the Holy Prophet's family, from and other types of Ottoman treasures which they won during the war belong to various sultans. I highly recommend you see that. The other good thing about Topkapı Palace, it gives you very sweeping views of the city and of the Bosphorus Straits. So once you get towards that part of the palace, you can get very nice pictures from there. You can easily spend 2 hours at Topkapı Palace. Maybe, depending on how quickly you want to see it, but definitely 2 hours at Topkapı Palace. After Topkapı Palace, the next main item which you want to see is the Istanbul Archaeological Museums. So these basic museums basically contain items prior to the Ottoman Empire and prior to the Byzantine Empire, mostly from Hittite times, or more of the Turkish and pre-Byzantine civilizations which existed there. So if you're interested in that era of history, that's very interesting part to see um, as well. Um, also contains many um, archaeological pieces from the Greek times of Alexander the Great as well. The other part, so the next part item which you want to keep, which you want to see during this trip, which would obviously be the last part, is the Basilica Cistern. So the Basilica Cistern essentially is an underground uh, construct which supplied water to the city of Istanbul during the Byzantine times when it was known as Byzantium, uh, or even Constantinople. It's very fascinating. It's underground. Um, the columns and the pillars are very old. You have columns of Medusa there. It's very interesting. This once again is also considered a museum. So if you have the museum pass, um, it will give you entrance. Otherwise, you have to pay a fee to get in. So that would be the other item to see. There's one additional place which you may want to see. I didn't really find it particularly interesting. It's called the Museum of Turkish and Islamic Arts. Um, it has some historical Turkish and Islamic art, I wouldn't say artifacts there, but exhibits there. Um, I mean, you can visit it if you want, if you have additional time. I really didn't find it that particularly interesting to visit. And see, the good thing is all of this, um, all these attractions are within walking distance, so it doesn't get, it's not going to take you a long time to go and walk there. So before I conclude this part of the video, the one thing I have to tell you is that Istanbul has a very large population of stray cats and especially stray dogs. And the Turks are very friendly to the stray dogs as well. So you will see them giving them food and whatnot. So if you're scared of dogs, don't be afraid. The dogs will usually not attack you or chase after you. They will chase after each other. I mean, the various packs of dogs will chase after other packs of dogs. So just to keep that mentioned and keep that in mind, that you will see a lot of stray dogs there and stray cats. So that does it for this for video number 4. For video number 5, we'll talk about a second day excursion around Sultanahmet. So until then, thank you.